In this class, we are going to talk about production function. Before we delve into any calculation, what exactly do we mean by production function? You see, the word production function consists of two words. The first word is production and the second is function. Now, when you hear the word production simply means an act of creating goods, you understand? The act of producing a goods or services is what we call production. And when you hear function shows the mathematical expression that exists between two things. Are you paying attention? Now, when we in economics, goods cannot be produced without an input. You understand? Hello, please kindly pay attention. I'm trying to explain this concept right now, okay? So kindly pay attention. You see, goods cannot be produced without making use of input. That input is what is used in producing output. You understand? The output is what we call goods. Are you there? Now, the input that is used in producing output, in an attempt to help us express their relationship mathematically, we use production function. You understand? Now, let's use an agricultural terms. Let's say we want to produce gari. Before we can produce gari, we have to make use of cassava. You understand? That means that gari is dependent of cassava. You understand? That means that G is a function of C. Do you understand? That is, in producing gari, we have to make use of cassava. Are you paying attention? Now, we cannot just use cassava. There are other things that we have to use. For example, you have to process the cassava into gari, and you are going to be making use of some input. Those inputs are in an attempt to help us to explain the relationship that exists between those inputs, including cassava, in an attempt to produce gari, in an attempt to help us to explain and express this mathematically. That is where production function comes in. You understand? So in simple terms, production function is a mathematical expression of our input as related to the output mathematically. You understand? Expressing mathematically the relationship that exists between our input and output, that function is called production function. A function that explains the relationship that exists between the input and the output, you understand, is what we call production function. Take note of that, okay? Now let's look at the first work example. Given the production function Q equals to 56 plus 10x, we are asked to find the MPP, the APP, and the EPP if x is equals to 2. See, if you want to solve this question, the meaning of MPP means marginal physical product, you understand? And the meaning of APP simply means average physical product. And EPP means elasticity of physical product, you understand? The elasticity is what we call the EPP. Now, please kindly pay attention. In solving this question, okay, solution, you know that Q equals to 56 plus 10x. Now we are asked to find the MPP, the APP, and we are asked to find the EPP. To calculate we are given that if x equals to 2, okay? Now, how do we calculate the MPP? Don't forget that I told you MPP simply means marginal physical product. And when you hear the word marginal in economics, perhaps if you are part of our previous class on cost, you know that when you want to determine the marginal cost, you have to differentiate the total cost. You understand? Now, to determine the marginal physical product, all you have to do is that just take the derivative of the function that you are given. You see, the function that you are given, the production function that you are given is what? Q equals to 56 plus 10x. Now, that means that Q is dependent on x. Q is the dependent variable and x is the independent variable. You understand? Because Q is dependent on x. Any changes in x will lead to a change in Q as well. You understand? In this case, Q is the output. You understand? Q is the output and x is the input. Just like what I explained here, that production function is a function that shows the relationship that exists between the outputs and inputs. You understand? In the course of a production, okay? So, the first step to calculate the marginal physical product, MPP is equals to the derivative of the function, you understand? You have to differentiate your production function, okay? MPP is equals to the derivative of Q, you understand? Now, if you look at this function, this is Q, which is the output, and the input is what? X. So we are differentiating Q with respect to X. You understand? So the marginal physical product is the Q all over the X. You understand? You see, you have to master some basic formula as far as the ability to solve this question is concerned. Okay? So, peradventure, if you missed our previous class, you can check the channel. Okay? Check the channel and watch those classes. So this is the formula to calculate the MPP. Are you there? So if you differentiate Q with respect to X, we are going to have the marginal physical product MPP is equals to, now with using the polynomial rule or the power rule of differential calculus, if you differentiate 56, you are going to have 0. Okay, if you differentiate 10x, you are going to have 10. How do I know? According to the polynomial rule or the power rule in differential calculus, if you have y equals to 56 plus 10x, okay, let's use Q now. Q equals to 56 plus 10x. The Q all over the x is equals to, if you differentiate a constant, you are going to have 0, okay? And according to the polynomial rule, you are going to have y equals to ax raised to the power of n. The y all over the x is equals to n multiplied by ax raised to the power of n minus 1. That is, you have to take the power to multiply the coefficient, then the power will reduce by 1. Okay, so I take this power to multiply this coefficient, which is n multiplied by a, then the power will reduce by 1. Now go back to the question. If you differentiate a constant, you are going to have 0. Okay, now if you differentiate 10x, see, if you differentiate 10x, what is the power which x is raised to in 10x? The power which x is raised to is 1. You understand? So if you are going to multiply this 1 by 10, 1 times 10, x raised to the power of 1 minus 1. Okay, so here I'm going to have the q all over the x. The q all over, okay, let's use R2q. The q all over the x is equals to 1 times 10 is 10. Okay, 10x raised to the power of 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay, so the q all over the x is equals to 10, because according to the laws of indices, x raised to the power of 0 is 1. Okay, according to the laws of indices. So that is how I got the MPP as 10. Okay, now having gotten the marginal physical product, let's proceed to calculate the second question. We are asked to determine the APP. Now, to calculate the APP, you have to divide the output by the input. You understand? You have to divide the output by the corresponding input. Now we are given that the input is what? X equals to 2. Hello? Please kindly pay attention. Now we want to determine the APP. APP simply means average physical product. APP is equals to Q all over X. The reason why I use Q over X, Q is the output, you understand, and X is the input. So in this case, I'm going to have APP is equals to Q. Q is what? 56 plus 10x. So I'm going to have 56 plus 10x all over x. Okay? The APP, which is the average physical product, is 56 plus 10 multiplied by x is what? X is 2. You understand? See, in calculating the APP, all you have to do is that divide the Q, which is the output, by the corresponding input. Now, the output is this. The corresponding input is what? X equals to 2. Okay? So I'm going to have multiplied by 2 all over 2. Now, the average physical product will be equals to 56 plus 10 times 2 is 20. So I'm going to have plus 20 all over 2. The average physical product is equals to 56 plus 20. That is 76. 76 all over 2 is what? Hello? I'm very sure you understood how I got to this point. It's very simple, okay? All you have to do is just to pay attention. If you didn't understand, reverse the video and listen to the explanation again. Okay? 76 divided by 2 is what? Is 38. So the average physical product is 38. Okay? So now, how do we get the EPP? Don't forget that I told you EPP is elasticity of physical product. You understand? To get the elasticity, I can erase this. The formula for calculating the elasticity is question 3 is equals to dq all over dp multiplied by p over q. You understand? Now, because we are dealing with Q and X, so the elasticity will become the Q all over the X multiplied by X all over Q. You understand? With this formula, you can get the elasticity. Okay. Now, the Q over the P is what? The Q over the P is what? Is 10. You understand? So I'm going to have 10 multiplied by X over Q. X over Q simply means the inverse of Q over X. You understand? So, and X over Q simply means the inverse of Q over X. And if you take the inverse of Q over X, that will be what? 1 over APP, 1 over average physical product. See, don't forget, when I start this class, we start by getting the MPP. And MPP is what? The Q over the X. So you can represent as what? MPP multiplied by X over Q. X over Q can be written as 1 over APP. You understand? Don't forget that APP is what? Q over X. So I can write this as 1 over APP. Because if I have X over Q, if I want to get Q over X, I'm going to take the inverse. 1 over X over Q will give me Q over X. You understand? And X over Q is what? X over Q is APP. So I'm going to have 1 over APP. You understand? Please, do you understand what I did here? Let me explain, okay? You know that Q over X, see, Q over X is APP. Now I want to get X over Q. To get X over Q, I'm going to take the inverse of Q over X. So I'm going to have 1 over Q over X. That will be X over Q. You understand? And Q over X is what? Average physical product, which is the APP. So I'm going to have 1 over APP will give us what? X over Q. You understand? So now that is how I got 1 over APP here. Okay, that means that I'm going to have MPP multiplied by APP. MPP is 10, so I'm going to have 10 multiplied by 1 over 38. You understand? So here I'm going to have 10 all over 38. Please, do you understand how I got here? Now, the next step is that you just have to punch your calculator. 10 divided by 38. If you punch your calculator, you're going to have, that is 0.26. You understand? 0.26. So the elasticity of production, EPP, the elasticity is equals to 0.26. You understand? So that is the solution to that question.